When running a telephone line underground, especially over a distance like 20 feet from a main house to a detached shack or office, it's crucial to use the right type of cable and installation methods. Standard Category 3 or Category 5 wire isn't designed for direct burial. Instead, you need to use a cable specifically rated for this purpose. Underground telephone cable is specially designed for underground installation and is typically rated as Underwriters Laboratories 1429 for low voltage, non-metallic applications. Another option is Type UF telephone cable, which is intended for underground electrical wiring, but not specifically for telephone lines. However, it can be used in certain cases with proper precautions. When considering direct burial telephone wiring, firstly, cable type selection is critical. You should use direct burial telephone cable or UF cable with an appropriate Underwriters Laboratories rating. Secondly, conduit protection is highly recommended. Running the cable through a conduit, such as a polyvinyl chloride pipe, protects it from physical damage, such as being punctured by rocks. Thirdly, moisture resistance is a key factor. Direct burial telephone cable is inherently moisture resistant, but additional sealing may be required at the ends and at any splices to prevent water ingress. Fourthly, the depth of burial is important. Bury the cable at a depth of at least 12 inches for adequate protection from the elements and accidental damage. Fifthly, avoid sharp objects during installation. Be careful not to run the cable near sharp rocks or objects that could puncture it. When considering using UF cable for telephone lines, keep in mind that it is best suited for limited distances underground, typically less than 100 feet. Moisture sealing is paramount. Protect the ends and any splices with a waterproof sealant or waterproof connectors to prevent moisture from affecting the connection. Corrosion protection is also essential. Apply anti-corrosion tape or compound to the exposed metal conductors at the ends to prevent corrosion. Follow the grounding recommendations of the telephone equipment manufacturer to ensure proper grounding and prevent electrical hazards. Here are some additional tips. Always use a voltage tester to ensure the cable is not energized before burying it as a safety precaution. Mark the location of the cable with stakes or warning tape for future maintenance or excavation to avoid accidental damage. Consider using a cable pulling lubricant to make installation easier, especially when running the cable through a conduit. Finally, consult with the local building code for any specific requirements or restrictions related to underground wiring. By following these guidelines, you can safely and effectively install a telephone line underground, ensuring reliable communication between the main house and the detached shack or office. Always prioritize safety and adhere to local electrical codes. Using direct burial cable is preferred over UF cable when possible, as it's specifically designed for telephone applications and offers better moisture resistance and protection. If you opt for UF cable, ensure it's properly sealed and protected against corrosion and physical damage. The 12-inch burial depth is a general guideline, but check local codes for specific requirements in your area. Also, be aware of any underground utilities in the area before digging. Call your local one-call service to have utilities marked before you start digging. This will prevent damage to existing underground infrastructure. When making splices, use connectors that are rated for direct burial. These connectors are designed to withstand moisture and corrosion. If you are using gel-filled connectors, make sure the gel is not compromised during installation. The gel helps to seal the connection and prevent moisture from entering. After installing the cable, test the telephone line to ensure it is working properly. This will verify that the connections are secure and that there are no faults in the cable. If you encounter any problems, check the connections and the cable for damage. If necessary, replace any damaged components. Remember that while UF cable can be used, it's primarily designed for power, not signal transmission. This means that over longer distances, you might experience signal degradation. If you need to run the line over a longer distance, consider using a dedicated direct burial telephone cable that is designed for longer runs. Direct burial telephone cables often have better shielding and conductors that are optimized for signal transmission. This can improve the quality of the telephone signal and reduce the risk of interference. In addition to protecting the cable from physical damage and moisture, It's also important to protect it from pests. Some animals, such as rodents, may chew on underground cables. To prevent this, consider using a cable that is rodent resistant or wrapping the cable in a protective sheath. When backfilling the trench, use a material that is free of sharp objects. This will help to prevent damage to the cable. You can also add a layer of sand or gravel around the cable for added protection. Make sure the backfill is properly compacted to prevent settling. Settling can cause the cable to sag and become damaged. Periodically inspect the cable for damage, especially after heavy rains or other disturbances. If you notice any damage, repair it promptly to prevent further problems. Consider the climate in your area. In areas with extreme temperatures, the cable may need to be buried deeper to protect it from freezing or overheating. Also, in areas with high levels of soil acidity, the cable may need to be protected from corrosion. It is also important to consider future needs when installing the telephone line. If you anticipate needing to add additional lines or services in the future, consider installing a larger conduit that can accommodate additional cables. This will save you time and money in the long run. Always disconnect the power to the telephone line before working on it. This will prevent electrical shock. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician to do the job. Be aware of potential hazards, such as underground gas lines and water lines. Contact your local utility companies to have these lines marked before you start digging. Always wear appropriate safety gear, such as gloves and eye protection, when working with underground cables. This will protect you from injury. Finally, remember that the information provided here is for general guidance only. Always consult with a qualified electrician or telephone technician for specific advice and recommendations. They can assess your individual needs and provide tailored solutions. Always prioritize safety and follow all applicable codes and regulations. Underground telephone cable installation is a straightforward process when done correctly. By using the right materials, following proper installation techniques, and taking necessary safety precautions, you can ensure a reliable and long-lasting telephone connection. Keep detailed records of the cable installation, including the type of cable used, the depth of burial, and the location of any splices or connections. This information will be helpful for future maintenance or repairs. If you are unsure about any aspect of the installation, seek professional assistance. A qualified electrician or telephone technician can provide expert guidance and ensure that the job is done safely and correctly. Consider the aesthetic impact of the cable installation. Try to minimize the visual impact of the cable and any associated equipment. For example, you can bury the conduit in a way that it is not visible from the surface. Check for permits. In some areas, a permit may be required for underground cable installation. Contact your local building department to determine if a permit is needed. Remember to keep the work area clean and organized. This will help to prevent accidents and ensure that the job is done efficiently. Dispose of any waste materials properly. Do not leave any debris behind. A properly installed underground telephone line can provide years of reliable service. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your installation is safe, effective, and long-lasting. Furthermore, consider that advancements in technology now offer alternatives to traditional copper telephone lines, such as fiber optic cables or wireless solutions. Evaluate whether these options might be more suitable for your specific needs, especially if you require higher bandwidth or greater reliability. Fiber optic cables, while more expensive to install, offer significantly higher bandwidth and are less susceptible to interference than copper cables. Wireless solutions, such as point-to-point wireless bridges, can eliminate the need for underground cables altogether, but may be subject to weather conditions and line-of-sight limitations. When choosing between these options, consider the following factors. Firstly, cost. Secondly, bandwidth requirements. Thirdly, reliability. Fourthly, ease of installation. Fifthly, future scalability. Each option has its own set of advantages and disadvantages, so it's important to carefully weigh your options before making a decision. If you decide to stick with the traditional copper telephone line, make sure to use high-quality components and follow best practices for installation. This will help to ensure that your telephone line provides reliable service for many years to come. Additionally, consider adding surge protection to the telephone line at both ends. This will help to protect your equipment from damage caused by lightning strikes or other electrical surges. Surge protection devices are relatively inexpensive and easy to install, and they can provide valuable peace of mind. When selecting a surge protection device, make sure to choose one that is specifically designed for telephone lines. The surge protection device should be installed as close as possible to the point where the telephone line enters the building. Also, remember to properly ground the surge protection device to ensure that it is effective. Another important consideration is the type of soil in your area. If the soil is highly corrosive, it may be necessary to take additional steps to protect the cable from corrosion. One option is to use a cable that is specifically designed for corrosive environments. Another option is to wrap the cable in a protective coating. Be sure to inspect the cable regularly for signs of corrosion. If you notice any corrosion, repair it promptly to prevent further damage. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions about underground cable installation. They can help you assess your individual needs and provide tailored solutions. Remember, safety should always be your top priority. Do not attempt to install an underground cable unless you are comfortable working with electricity and are familiar with all applicable safety codes and regulations. When running the cable, avoid sharp bends. Sharp bends can damage the cable and reduce its lifespan. Use sweeping curves instead of sharp bends. This will help to protect the cable from damage and ensure that it provides reliable service for many years to come. Also, when backfilling the trench, be careful not to damage the cable with your shovel or other tools. Use a soft material, such as sand or gravel, to backfill the trench around the cable. This will help to protect the cable from damage. Remember to properly compact the backfill to prevent settling. Settling can cause the cable to sag and become damaged. Finally, remember to keep the area around the cable free of debris and vegetation. This will help to prevent damage to the cable and ensure that it provides reliable service for many years to come. This will also help to prevent rodents from damaging the cable.